Okay, today I'm scouting a piece of public land in northwest Pennsylvania. And I had a camera in here last year. I set up in the middle of October and never got a chance to come back in here and check it until gun. And what I found was there were a lot of good bucks using this scrape in broad daylight. Now, I'm back pretty far on this public land. This place gets pounded during gun season. And I was getting photos of bucks during gun season and all after gun season hitting that scrape in daylight some days. Usually at night, but some days in daylight. And for the amount of pressure that this place gets, that tells me that I'm in the right area, that this is remote and I'm far enough away from everybody that this is going to be a good place to hunt. Now, I normally don't sit over scrapes per se, and they have to be close to bedding, in my opinion, for them to be any good. If you find scrapes that are out on edges of fields, or close to a food source like that, usually they're not going to be any good. They're going to be used at nighttime. But if I can find scrapes in some thick stuff that's way back like this, near bedding, doe bedding or buck bedding, I'm going to be hunting them. And so what I wanted to do was find some better access, because the way I had to get in here was about a half a mile to the north, and the creek was so high there that I had to wear waders, chest waders, to get across. I don't mind wearing hip waders. I hunt in hip waders all the time, but I had to use chest waders to get across, and then have to carry my hip waders with me because this is a real wet, swampy area in here. So what I did was I walked the creek until I got down and found a place where I can cross it. And it just so happens to be that it's right on a trail that lines up with the scrape that I was getting all the good pictures on last year. So it's even better. I already walked down there to where the camera was last year, and I followed it back, and there was 3 or 4 scrapes on the edge of this creek heading this direction towards the bedding area that I know is to the south. And it's so thick in here you can barely walk through that stuff. And this is the direction that most of the daylight pictures were coming from. So actually what I did was I've got myself another 100 yards closer to where they're bedding. Now they're bedding real close to right here. But I figured that these bucks were coming from across the creek, but the sign is showing that they're coming down a scrape line out of this bedding area that's on this side of the creek. So it makes it even better, because now I have a rut funnel that I can hunt, and I'm going to access it from the other side of the creek. I'm not going to bother any of the deer that are using this funnel. And the nice thing about this funnel is you have a big, wide, deep creek right here. It's anywhere from 5 to 8 feet deep, almost everywhere except for this gravel bar right here. And I can come right up this gravel bar and get in that tree right there on the edge of this creek. And with a west wind, my wind is going to blow out into that creek and probably follow that water down towards the east. It's usually the way it ends up working out when you start floating the milkweed and you got a creek like this. But the thing that makes it even better setup is that I just love this setup, because you have right here just a beaten down path. And you walk over here and you have another beaten down path. Now this is public land right here, okay, in Pennsylvania. Everybody has doe tags and shoots, whatever they can get. Now right here you got a couple more big paths that come up, crisscross, go down through there. Right here is on the line of the scrape line I was talking about. Here is another scrape. Now this scrape is the closest to the bedding. Like I said, I thought that these bucks were coming from across the creek, but the creek's too deep. Now, it doesn't ruin a deer's day if he gets wet, but it ruins mine if I do. So I was hoping that these deer were crossing actually over there, right where that scrape is. And I do see that a lot of them are crossing where I'm going to have to cross at. But these trails are running north-south. I'm crossing from the east to the west. So I feel pretty confident that since I'm going to go right up on the bank, I'm not going to bother anything. Now, the other thing that makes this a perfect funnel for me, and what I always try to look for, is the deep creek is over here. And then when you come past all these trails, this is maybe 35 yards wide. And when you come past all these trails, you come up and there's one of these oxbow lakes. So what that is at one point in time, the creek actually ran through here and it curved around, and then over time the water it flooded out and it rushed over the middle of this, and then the creek switched directions. And when you find meandering creeks like this, you find this stuff all through them, and it is just dynamite hunting for funnels and for for bow hunting, gun hunting too. But so this is what I'm looking for. It looks like a solid setup. I know that all these bucks are still alive that were in here. Pretty much the only buck that I had on camera at that scrape, there was probably 5 2- and 3-year-old bucks that were coming into that scrape in daylight. One of them I shot the second week of gun. The rest of them I know are alive. So this season should be good in here, and I expect to shoot a really good buck in here this year.